forward. Here we go. Okay, so an official start to our turkey program. So most folks, I'm pretty sure, have probably seen wild turkeys either in their backyards, walking down the street. I've certainly seen turkeys walking down the street here in Rhode Island, in the park, at a golf course. They're pretty widespread across the state. And as you can see, they're pretty widespread across the United States. So here in the Northeast, we have a specific subspecies. So, wild turkeys are all part of the same species, but a subspecies is essentially like cousins within the same family, right? So you're kind of all related, but you're kind of different. That's how I like to think of subspecies. So there are 6 subspecies in the United States, and you can see the colors on my map here. So we've got the Northeast, that's the blue subspecies. That's most of the Eastern North America, Eastern United States rather, is that subspecies that we have here in Rhode Island. But there's some that go all the way only into Mexico. There's some kind of in this middle section of the country in Texas. There's a subspecies in Florida, and they pretty much look the same, but there's some differences. Like if you go out west, towards the mountains and Colorado and New Mexico, Arizona, the wild turkeys, the ends of their tail feathers are kind of this creamy white color as opposed to a brown. So there are some physical differences, but they pretty much look the same. And wild turkeys way back in the day were very widespread during the early settlement of the United States. And unfortunately, as with a lot of different wildlife species, when the European settlers got here, we started to see a lot of our animals disappear, or at least experience really, really sharp declines in their population. So they started to, all those populations started to shrink really rapidly because when the settlers got here, they thought there was an endless bounty of wildlife resources and that they could just hunt and fish and trap as much as they want and it would never end. But that was obviously not the truth, right? So at one point in Rhode Island, we actually lost wild turkeys. So you could not find a wild turkey in the state because of that over harvesting or that over hunting, and also because of habitat loss. So when the settlers got here, they also cut down most of our forest to make way for farms. So when you take away an animal's habitat, they have no place to go, so they move on somewhere else. So but the wild turkey is an important part of our local ecosystem. It's a native bird. It's really important. So there was some effort to reintroduce wild turkeys to New England in the 50s. So they started in Massachusetts and Connecticut. And in the 80s and the 90s, we reintroduced birds to Rhode Island. So we started in Exeter with just 29 birds. And then in the 90s, we released 137 in Scituate, Barrowville, Little Compton, Tiverton, West Greenwich. So kind of spreading them out throughout the state. And if you're looking outside nowadays, you can see that they were very successful and the birds did really well. And now we have a lot of wild turkeys here in Rhode Island, which is great. So Gabby's got some fun trivia, some turkey terminology. You could impress your friends and family around Thanksgiving with all of your newfound knowledge about turkeys. So take it away, Gabby.
All right. So I think our first trivia question is, does anyone know what a male turkey is called?
So we can type our answers in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourselves and shout it out, you can.
Tom.
Tom. You guys got it. You're right. So a male turkey is called a tom. And so there's some different ways that you can tell the toms from the females, which we'll guess that the name of a female turkey in just a minute. So the toms have some unique identification characteristics. So if we want to do our first click, can anyone guess what the little thing that's on the top of the nose is called? See how well you know your turkeys. See.
Snood.
Snood.
Yeah.
Someone has their research. So you got it. So it's called the snood. So that's kind of to attract the females. It's to make them look a little bit better for all those girl turkeys. And then they have those things underneath their neck. Anybody have a guess what those ones are called?
Wattle. Wattles.
Wattle?
It's W-A-T-T-L-E, isn't it?
D.
Oh, is it?
There's wattles. There's another name for it as well. It starts with a C. It's kind of a weird name.
This one's tough. This one's tough.
A C, another name.
It is. Should we reveal the answer? It's kind of a hard one. Caruncles. They're called the caruncles. So those can actually change colors on the males when they're excited. It'll turn like a really bright red color again to attract the females. And then someone typed this answer into the chat already, but there's one more thing that's located on the chest of a turkey. Anyone have a guess? Oh.
I saw it in the chat.
I saw it in the chat, I think, already. So you guys, yep. All right.
Beard.
You got it. It's the beard.
Some have double beards.
Yeah.
Some of them do have double beards.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the females have beards too. So that's not the only characteristic to tell a male from a female.
Have beards.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yep. So yeah, so sometimes the females can have beards, but it's one of the ways that you can tell a male from a female. But the males also have all those other characteristics, and they've got that big tail fan, and Mary will talk about how they attract the females in other ways with their behavior as well. So then on the right-hand side, we have a female turkey. You can see she's really drab in color. So females are called something else. Anyone have a guess? Hen. Yeah, you guys got it. So right in the chat, you guys got it. So it's a hen is a female, and then the babies are called poults.
That's right. You got it.
I got it right.
Yeah, we cheated.
I knew the answer already. So hens are the females, poults are the babies, and then the young males and the young females have people names, I think, besides Tom, have other people names. They start with J. I'll give you that hint. Anyone have a guess?
Jake's?
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Jakes are young males, and young females are something else with a J.
We
Someone
don't.
guess.
Jenny.
Jake's and somebody said Jill. That's cute. I don't know.
I think I heard someone say it.
Say Jenny.
Jenny,
right.
you got it.
Right.
Which
Oh,
also
you're right.
happens to be the name
Right.
of our upland game bird biologist.
Funnily enough, I know. Yeah, Jenny studies jennies, which is great.
Yep, Jenny is our game bird biologist, and she studies jennies and jakes and toms and hens.
So I always like to say caruncles. I feel like this is a great Scrabble word. Somebody writes
Yeah,
uncle or a
carunc-
car.
No.
Use it next time you play Scrabble. It's a good one. All right. We've got a little bit more trivia.
Oh yeah.
This is the fun
So,
stuff.
one of these is a jake, and one of these is a tom. Do you think it's the one on the left, or the one on the? Okay. The one on the left. How should we do this trivia?
Is that a Jake or a Tom? Which one is the Tom?
Yeah. Which one is on the left? Do you think it's the jake or the tom? Which one's
Tom
on the
is,
left?
Tom is on the right. Jake is on the left.
Tom is on the right. Jake is on the left.
Any other guesses? I see Jake on left in the chat.
Jake on the left.
The
Yeah.
Jake is on the left because his middle tail feathers are too long.
You guys should be leading this. You're so good. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
We have
So
some
the Jake,
hunters in here.
I think there are turkeys actually listening in. I think there's a couple turkeys. So we've got the Jake on the left-hand side, and just like you said, those tail feathers in the middle, this is called the fan, that big part that's all flared out. Those ones in the middle are sticking up higher, so it kind of looks like a messy teenager. So they've don't know how to get their tail feathers in order, whereas the tom, which is on the right, has that nice, big, even tail fan. So that's another way you can tell the difference between adults and young turkeys.
Awesome. I'm very impressed by the knowledge in this Zoom call. I'm very impressed. All right.
Oh, I think this is great.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're winning.
I think so. Yeah, you would have won our turkey trivia. We always joke, we're like, oh, we should have like a trivia night somewhere at like like a burger place or something one night, like just like see who shows up for wildlife trivia night.
Oh, I forgot. There's one more characteristic that I forgot to point out, and I have it right in front of me, so I should have.
Oh, yes.
So I have some turkey feet. So these are real turkey feet. So another characteristic of the males is they have that big spur that's on the back of their legs. So that's another way that you can tell. In case you couldn't see all the other characteristics, that's the other one that you can tell male and female turkeys apart, is those spurs on the back. They're turkey feet.
Thanks, Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit about turkey behavior, and like, so what do turkeys do, and what can we expect out of them? So turkeys are active during the day, and they roost at night. So usually when they roost, depending on the season, so if a hen is sitting on a nest, she'll roost on the ground. But if she's not raising young actively, or if it's Tom or Jake, they'll actually roost in trees. So there's a myth that turkeys cannot fly. That's not true. So turkeys have very strong wings. They have very big feathers, big flight feathers. So they can lift themselves off the ground. They can flap and they can fly up into a tree. So you'll often see them kind of grouped together in trees at night because there's safety in numbers, because they are a game bird. So they are, not only hunted by humans, but they're also hunted by other critters too. They're a good prey item for other animals, like coyotes or bobcats. Even owls and hawks will eat the poults, the babies. Gabby and I, we did a field trip for a class once, and the kids had the binoculars, and we were looking, and I heard one of the kids tap me and said, Miss Mary, there's a hawk sitting in that tree. Look at that hawk. And all the kids were all looking at the hawk. Oh, wow, look at it. And it was pretty low in the tree, and it was, sitting there and like looking down at the ground. I was like, oh, I wonder if it's going to fly away. Not all the kids get to see it yet. And all of a sudden it takes off and it dives down to the ground, and it picked up a baby turkey, a poult, off of the ground. And then the female turkey, the hen, flew up and like tried to like jostle the hawk out of the way. So we didn't even see the turkeys from where we were standing, but there was this aerial display of turkeys and hawks flying around. But unfortunately the little poult got eaten, but they are good snacks for other animals. So the circle of life, all in the balance, right? The interesting thing about turkeys is that they're actually pretty smart. They're pretty wily, and they'll remember the layout of their home ranges. So they know where everything is and where their food sources are. They scratch the ground for food. So they spend most of their time just kind of pecking around, like you would see a turkey or a chicken on a farm, pecking and scratching at the ground. That's how they find their food. And the flocks, usually, you have like a flock of females that'll stick together. The males will kind of jostle each other around, and you can see this guy in the picture. He's all puffed up and he's fanned out to try to catch the attention of all of these females, who seem to be completely disinterested. They're more interested in finding their breakfast. But they try to, attract the females and show off as much as they can in order to find a mate. But within that flock, there's a pecking order. So there's kind of the birds that are on top and who boss the other ones around. And they're not picky about their habitat. So as I said at the beginning, I've seen turkeys walking down the street on the sidewalk in Johnston. There was a group of turkeys a couple years ago that were causing quite a kerfuffle in the town, because they were right outside the town hall, hanging out in the parking lot at a busy intersection, a four-way intersection that there were tons of cars going back and forth. And they seemed perfectly fine. They were not that picky about their habitat, and they were finding places to hang out in people's backyards that were right near the town hall. So they're pretty much able to survive anywhere. They're pretty adaptable, which has led to, I think, their success in their comeback in the state. So what's on the turkey menu? What do we think that are some things that they might be scratching around on the ground for to be eating? And Gabby's got a skull there, so you can see the beak.
Acorn.
Worms, acorns. I'm seeing bugs, ticks in the chat. Bugs, acorns, and grubs also in the chat. Anything else? Blueberries, grass, I'm seeing in the chat too. Yeah. These are all good things, right? You guys got it. So you even got the blueberries. So they'll eat pretty much anything. So they're omnivores. So they eat both plant material and animal material. So they'll be eating grass. They'll go around for roots or bulbs. They eat a lot of seeds. So they can strip these grasses for seeds as well. Looking around for any flower seeds that may have fallen. Bird feeders. So if you have, I feel like people always think of like, oh, I'm putting out my bird feeder for like the little songbirds, and we forget that turkeys are birds. Like, oh, those turkeys are at my bird feeder. What are they doing? Well, they're birds. They'll eat seeds. They'll eat nuts as well. So acorns and beech nuts are particularly important in the fall because this is a good food source for them as they're getting ready for the long winter where that plant material goes away. Berries, they'll definitely snack on berries in the summer. All sorts of insects, worms and snails and all sorts of things like that, even salamanders sometimes, even those aren't insects, those are amphibians. And they'll also eat ticks, which is great. So we should absolutely love the turkeys for eating the ticks. So the poults almost exclusively feed on insects though, because they need all that protein to grow. So they're not eating as much plant material when they're babies, but then they start to wean their way onto the plants as well. Okay, so I'll let Gabby take over for our breeding.
So Mary's talking about poults. So before they're poults, they have to be eggs. So the females, they, just like in that photo you can see, all they make for their nest is they just kind of like scratch around on the ground, and they'll lay their eggs right there on the ground, just pretty much in just a tiny little divot, but not even like dug out or anything. And I can tell you, when the hen sits on the nest, she is pretty much impossible to see because she's so well camouflaged. So I used to do surveys and I'd look for snakes. I was looking for snakes, so I'm looking at the ground right at my feet looking for snakes. And I would walk right up on a hen sitting on a nest and she'd flash and scare me. And it happened a bunch of times when I was out walking in the woods because I wouldn't see her because she's so well camouflaged, which is great for hiding a nest on the ground. So she'll sit on that nest for 28 days, so almost a month, and then the young will hatch. They're poults and they're ready to go right away. They're feathered and they can start trying to feed. And the hen will kind of show the chicks how to feed. And then they'll stay with her for about 4 to 5 months. And I have a turkey egg replica. So it's not a real turkey egg, but this is just about what an egg looks like. So they're kind of yellowish and they've got those brown spots all over them. And you can see they're not all that large. They're kind of around about the size of a chicken egg. So how many eggs do you think a hen will lay? They'll only lay once a year, but how many eggs do you think that they'll lay?
So we're seeing 6, 12.
8 to 12, you think? Yeah.
All of them.
All the eggs, right?
Yeah, you guys are pretty on the money. So they can lay between about 4 to 17 eggs in a nest. So a lot of eggs. And you can tell like they're laying 17 eggs in a nest. So that probably means they, can reproduce pretty quickly, and they can. And that's probably another factor in why they kind of came back and are doing so well in the state after almost being completely gone. So that's our little bit about our breeding turkeys and our poults. So living with them is a whole nother story. So we didn't have them, and now they're all back. And you can see this ridiculous photo. I don't know if you can see that silhouetted turkey poking, like trying to sneak in, look through the window. That's the turkey that was in Johnston at the town hall trying to peek in and see what's going on. So these turkeys were hanging out, bugging everybody, not letting people in and out of the building. And so they're just becoming nuisances. And that can happen if people accidentally or on purpose feed turkeys. And that can happen through bird feeders. So just like this picture here. So if you want to prevent turkeys from becoming a problem, one of the ways you can do it is just clean up underneath your bird feeder, or get those kind of bird feeders where the seeds won't fall down onto the ground. So you can either rake it all up so the turkeys can't get it, or have one of those bird feeders. If they're being kind of a pest already and they're in your yard and you want them to go away, you can kind of chase them away with a broom. You can spray them with a hose. make loud noises, or if you have a dog, you can have it come out and kind of bark at the turkeys and get them to scare them away. But they're really attracted to shiny things. So if you have a really nice shiny car, a lot of times the turkeys will see the reflection in it, and especially during the mating season, the males will see it and get competitive and want to fight the reflection. So try to cover up anything really shiny, and that will kind of stop them from being attracted to the area. And they'll also sometimes come into your garden. So if you net out your gardens and use all those other techniques to kind of scare them away, then the turkeys won't become a problem. And we like turkeys, so we want to keep them around. We just don't want them to become pests.
Right. And they can get pretty bold too. They're big birds too. So you guys saw the spurs, and they've got, a beak that can peck and can hurt. So we don't want turkeys to expect that they can get a snack from people. And we think that the ones in Johnston were probably either being fed or snacking from a dumpster. There's like fast food places all around near the town hall. So they may have been getting some snacks from the dumpster and thinking that people were the source of the food. So they're just doing what naturally seems like a good idea, is to approach people and see if they can get a snack. So we don't want that for turkeys or for any wildlife, because we want them to stay wild, because that's the safest thing for them and for people. And
the other thing is, if turkeys do become a problem, or if any wildlife becomes a problem, it's illegal to relocate wildlife in the state. So we try not to do that if we can help it, because it's not really good for the wildlife, and it's not good for wherever we put them. Because if the turkeys are a problem, at the town hall, then we put them somewhere else, they might become a problem somewhere else, or the turkey might not find the resources that it needs, and it could, starve to death, or it could try to get back to where it was and get hit by a car. So we try to avoid relocating animals as much as we can. But sometimes the situation does call for it. And so I think these turkeys were relocated to an undeveloped state park that was just happened to be nearby, where they wouldn't cause a problem and they could be in their natural habitat. But we really try not to do that. So we don't want any more problems than we have to have with turkeys, because like I said, they are a really beautiful resource to have in the state. So we want them to stay here.
Yeah, that park was only like 5 minutes up the same street where they were, so that wasn't a huge change for them. But okay, so turkeys, now that we have a lot of them here, and they can almost to the point where they can become a nuisance, we do allow a hunting season on them. And the hunting season is regulated, so that means there's lots of rules that you have to follow. There's only a short window of time where you can actually hunt turkeys, and how many you can take. So right now we have a fall archery season, so that already passed. It's only 2 weeks in October where you can take toms and hens. We have a youth and paraplegic weekend each spring, the youth hunt. We often have mentors go out with youth hunters, which is a great way for them to get involved. And if you know somebody who's interested in getting into hunting, a lot of times people don't know anybody to mentor them, so then it's kind of a barricade to them getting into the sport. So we have folks who will be happy to help out if you're interested in that. We have a great hunter ed program. The spring gobbler season runs from late April to the end of May, and that's only for toms. And the reason that we say only toms is because the hens at that time will be starting to scratch out their nests and to lay their eggs and to attend to their young. So it's not ethical to be harvesting females, because they need to be caring for their young and to produce offspring, so then that way they replace the turkeys that were harvested during the hunting season. So that way we keep that nice balance. So we never want our populations to go down so low because we've overhunted them. So that's why we have those hunting rules and regulations. Right now you can take 2 birds, which it used to be 1 bird in the spring and that was it. But now you can take 1 on state land and 1 on private land. And that is because our turkey population is doing really well. So you can adjust that limit as you see your populations fluctuate. And if all of a sudden we started to see our turkey populations going a little bit lower than we'd like it, we'd reduce that limit and probably bring it back down to 1. And hunting, so turkey hunting is very tricky. So I am not a hunter. I respect hunting and I appreciate it, but it takes a long time and a lot of commitment, especially turkey hunting. You have to be extremely patient. Turkeys are very smart. They're very cautious. I once heard somebody say that deer see a hunter and they think he's a tree because the hunter is camouflage and hiding. Turkeys see a tree and think it's a hunter. So they're very, very smart and very cautious birds. So you have to be up at the crack of dawn, waiting and figuring out your spot. And hunting illegal shooting hours for turkeys end at 1 p.m. every day. So that gives the turkeys, that bit of a break. But, most people are out there well before the sun is up, getting ready to stake out their spot. And they're very lucky when they get a bird. Okay, so Gabby is going to talk a little bit about citizen science and how you can get involved with helping us track our turkey population.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of different ways that citizen scientists can participate. And the first one that we have is anyone can do it, but it is only, we only have this during the middle of like the summer time is the brood survey time. So July 1st to August 31st, we collect data via an app. So Survey 123 is an app, and we have lots of other surveys that you can do using this app. You can also do it, just enter it on the computer online. So if you have internet, you just go online to this website, and if you see a turkey, a hen that has poults, that has the babies, then you can report it to us. You just tell us kind of where and when and how many there are. And that helps us kind of see how our turkey population is doing, how many young are being produced each year. And so this survey has been running since 1993. It's the same length as our other survey that we've done. You can see on this map here, this shows the wild turkey poults that were found throughout the state. So the number is right on the bottom. So the bigger dots are 15 to, I can't even see that, 24. Yeah, so that's 15 to 24 in those bigger dots, and then 0 to 2 in the smaller dots. So you can see we have turkeys all over the state now, and the population is doing really well, just like Mary said. So our data this year, we found 547 hens, and these are, again, all reported by just the public. So people seeing turkeys as they, drive by or in their yard. We saw 1,629 poults and 196 males. So we do take some male observations, but we're really looking for the hens and the poults. So you can see we've got 2,379 turkeys observed in the state, and those are the ones that all came from citizen scientists. So it's really great that people can help out and submit data this way. The other way.
Oh, Gabby, before we jump to that, we have one little, the little graph that we'd like to.
Oh yeah.
So this is kind of, so I got this from our game bird biologist, Jenny Kilburn, and Jenny is super smart and very adept at statistics. So ignore all of these like crazy numbers here. So we're gonna interpret the graph. So I said, Jenny, what's going on with the turkeys based on your data this year? So based on all of those observations that we get and over time, so we start in 1993 all the way up to 2020. She's done the math, and there's a way that we can figure out, or Jenny figures out the number of poults per hen, like on average across the state. So this year, the number of poults per hen was 3.7. So you can't have 0.7 of a poult, but statistically, so like between 3 and 4 poults per hen. And compare that to like everything that's happened before. You can see this like grayed out line, this dotted line that's kind of going downwards. So I asked Jenny, I said, wait, does that mean that like our turkey, like the poults per hen, the number of poults that a hen has per year or that they survive, does that mean it's going down? Like, isn't that not good that it's going down? So she explained it to me, and she said, okay, so if we look at 1993, this is kind of like right when they started introducing, or just after they started reintroducing the turkeys. So there were no turkeys in the state. There's plenty of resources for them, plenty of space. So the population grew very quickly because there was lots of opportunity for them. So the number of poults per hen was it like 5 poults per hen, right? So we're starting and it's going up and it looks really good, and all of a sudden we start to see it kind of decline and went kind of a low here in 2008. So from 2004 to 2020, it's kind of been stable. It's kind of holding around here at about 3. That would give or take a few spikes. So how Jenny explains this is that when you have like lots of resources and open space, and there's 0 turkeys in the state, then there's lots of opportunity and the population can grow really quickly. But then once your population grows and grows and grows, it hits what we call carrying capacity, and that's how many animals of a particular species the ecosystem can support with food, with water, shelter, space. So eventually what happens is they kind of hit their peak, and then they say, oh, okay, we can't really fit too many turkeys here. There's not enough resources really. So then the population kind of drops a little bit and hits that new normal. So we're kind of stabilizing here. So we're sitting here at 3 poults per hen and kind of riding evenly forward into the future. So that doesn't mean that our turkey population is in trouble or that it's going down. It just means that it's naturally figuring itself out and stabilizing. So this happens in nature all the time with all sorts of animals. So what we'd be more concerned about is if, okay, all of a sudden, like we start seeing it down here, for many, many years. Oh, wait, what happened? So it's nice and in the middle. It's looking pretty good. So we're happy with that. I was laughing with Jenny. I said, "Oh my gosh, all these numbers! there's a lot of statistics. What's the long and short of it?" So it does take a lot of math and figuring out. I know we have some kids here on the call. If you guys are interested in wildlife and studying wildlife, it takes a lot of math and a lot of science and learning to be able to track these animals and their populations. It's very tricky. So Jenny's very smart. She's done a lot of school to get to this point. So we're happy to have her. I'll take a second to plug the podcast. If you want to learn more about Jenny and to actually hear her speak about game birds, she studies not only turkeys, but ducks and geese, and she runs our pheasant program. So she does a lot. We have a podcast called Information Nation. So it's information only with the Rhode Island twang. So it's info, F-A-W, Mation, FAW as in fish and wildlife, or information if you are from Rhode Island. So Information Nation is our new podcast we do on once a month. It's our Hunter Ed program that puts it out. And this past month, for this month, Jenny was the guest on the podcast. So we highly encourage you to check it out. We can put the link in the chat to the podcast. I think Gabby's getting it right now. If you are into podcasts and want to learn more about wildlife, you can listen to it online. And it's also on Apple Podcasts and pretty much every podcast app that's out there. I am new to podcasts, so this is all exciting for me. So I just discovered podcasts. So that's just a little bit about the brood survey. So Gabby, I'll let you take it away again with the Gobbler surveys.
And just, I put the link for our reporting wildlife observations page in the chat. But right now that brood survey is closed, so it ends in the end of August, but next year we'll do it again. And so next year during that same time, we'll put it out on our Facebook page, on Instagram. If you're on our mailing list, then you'll see it there on our monthly email. So next year you'll get a heads up of when we want those turkey reports again, but for now that survey is closed. And then our other volunteer opportunity is our Gobbler survey routes. These are really fun. We just take a few volunteers for this, and we just started this this year with volunteers, but the survey has been done by staff since 1993. And so these routes are really fun to do. You wake up before the sunrise. You have to start a half an hour before sunrise, and you have a 12-mile route that you have to drive, and you stop every mile along that route and you listen for turkeys calling. And if you find them, then you record it down on your data sheet. And that's just to kind of get an idea of where turkeys are in the state again. And that means that they're breeding, because this is done in the springtime during the turkey breeding season. So if we hear the males gobbling, then we know they're calling for a female. So they're looking for a mate. And so that's kind of how we figure that out. But these surveys, they're so peaceful because it's right at sunrise, and you just sit quietly in your car and you just listen. and you hear, if you don't hear a turkey, which you might not hear a turkey, you still hear all these other beautiful songbirds calling. So it's one of the most peaceful surveys that we do. So this year, thanks to volunteers, we collected this data here. So we had 292 turkeys heard calling, 1,148 calls heard. So each time they call, you record it. So like a gobble, gobble, gobble is one call, and then a gobble, gobble, gobble is another call. And 90 turkeys were actually seen. So I actually covered one of these routes one day, and I did see a turkey cross the road in front of me, which I thought was pretty funny. It's like, oh, he knew I was on my driving route. Crossed right in front of me. And so this will help us over time in estimating like population size of our turkeys.
And also kind of where they are. So Jenny was talking to me about occupancy. So like where the turkeys, like, are there more turkeys in Washington County as opposed to Providence County? And what's kind of that occupancy rate, I guess, of where we're going to see our turkeys. Really.
And again, if you're interested in volunteering for this kind of a survey, that will be on our monthly email and again on our Facebook and Instagram page. So we always advertise all of these opportunities. So hopefully if you like them, then you'll be able to find the information for it.
Awesome. So with that, I love this picture. This is from one of our trail cameras that we set up. There's 100 trail cameras. If you came to our Bobcat talk, you probably know this story, but we set up about 100 trail cameras across the state as part of our Bobcat study to catch bobcats on camera, but also to document other mammals in Rhode Island and basically anything else that walk by. And we got quite a few turkeys, but this one always makes me giggle because she's like, I'm on camera. So we thank everybody for joining us tonight. We encourage you to check us out on social media. We have plenty of time for questions. I'm going to stop recording right now, so then that way we can turn on cameras if folks want to ask questions face to face. So give me just 1 second to do that.